Do you believe everything you've experienced is a direct result of your own choices? What if I told you it wasn't? That most of your life has been controlled by something you didn't even know existed? And worse, this hidden force dictates your income, your relationships, and even how far you can go. Prepare yourself, because I'm about to dismantle everything you've always believed to be true. When I say the vast majority of your daily actions aren't really choices, I know it's unsettling, but it's the truth. You're operating under a paradigm, a set of ingrained habits, beliefs, and automatic responses deeply rooted in your subconscious. Think about it. How many times have you decided, this time it's different, felt incredibly motivated, only to find yourself back in the same rut 2 weeks later? This isn't a personal failing, it's programming. This paradigm began before you even had conscious awareness. Part of it is inherited. That's why you resemble your relatives. And another part was installed by your environment. What you heard about money, work, success, love, and people like us. If an English-speaking child is raised in a Mandarin-speaking home, they become fluent in Mandarin and won't know English. What enters from the outside becomes programming. It works the same way with ideas about prosperity and worthiness. If at 7 years old you heard money is dirty, rich people are bad, or work hard and accept life as it is, that became your emotional native language about money, and that's the language you're still speaking at 35. Why is this so powerful? Because the subconscious controls your body and actions without asking your conscious mind for permission. Your conscious mind can imagine, reason, choose, but when you try to choose something new, the paradigm pulls your body's energy back to the familiar. Ever felt that knot in your stomach when thinking about asking for a raise, starting a business, saying no, or investing in yourself? That's not a sign from the universe to stop. It's the paradigm's alarm bell. Danger, this doesn't align with who I say you are. Let me be frank. For years, I was the perfect example of how a paradigm traps you. I left school early, taking whatever work came my way. One day, in a workshop, a bandsaw caught my thumb. It hung on by a thread. It hurt for months. And what hurt more was my self-perception. I'm good for nothing. Later, I became a firefighter in Toronto. I paid my bills, did my shifts, and convinced myself, this is it. This is life. I told myself, when I have extra money, I'll change. There was never any extra money. I didn't see that I didn't lack strength. I lacked a new paradigm, until a man put Think and Grow Rich in my hands. That was a shock. It didn't change everything overnight, but for the first time, I saw the wiring behind the wall. I wasn't lazy, I was programmed. Do you, at 35, 40, 50, recognize this pattern? You promise to save money, and then, before you know it, a seemingly harmless purchase has eaten away your savings. You say you'll talk about money with your partner, but you keep postponing it for when things calm down. You think about entrepreneurship, but your mind races. What about the kids? What about health insurance? What if it fails? Let's be clear, these fears are automatic responses designed to keep you in the familiar. The familiar may be cramped, but it's comfortable for your paradigm, and it prefers the comfort of scarcity to the uncertainty of expansion. Want a simple experiment that proves how automatic behaviors dominate? Tomorrow, when brushing your teeth, use your opposite hand. That's it. It will feel awkward and uncomfortable. You didn't forget how to brush your teeth. You simply strayed from the path your body knows. The same thing happens when you try to save 10% of your salary. Decline an invitation that will delay you or state, I charge X, without apologizing. The discomfort isn't proof that it's not for you. It's proof that the old habit lost control for a moment, and that's precisely where change is born. I want you to meticulously observe how your paradigm manifests in your daily adult life. 3 classic areas. Money. Internal phrases like, I don't deserve it, it's wrong to want to earn more, better not to risk it. You notice an unexpected deposit and immediately an urgent bill appears to consume it. Time. You say, I don't have time, and yet you spend 40 minutes scrolling through social media to numb your anxiety. It's not relaxation, it's anesthesia, self-image. You look in the mirror and think, I'm not at that level. Every financial decision attempts to confirm this idea. If a major promotion arises, you sabotage yourself to avoid contradicting who you believe yourself to be. Let's make this practical. Get a notebook and start what I call a 7-day paradigm audit. Simple rule. Every time something about money, time, or worthiness triggers an emotion, fear, irritation, shame, stop for 30 seconds and write down the exact phrase that popped into your head. Don't edit. Don't embellish. Examples. If I charge that, they'll laugh at me. Money corrupts people. You can't be a present father and earn a good living. Next to it, write where it likely came from. Mother, father, school, church, first boss. A painful experience at 12 years old. You'll be surprised to realize that your voice isn't yours. Finally, create an operational counterphrase that you can act on today. Nothing ethereal or magical. A behavioral instruction. Examples. When I think I don't have time, I'll block 20 minutes on my calendar now. When I hear it's expensive, I'll ask what value it creates and look for 3 ways to capture it. You might be thinking, but I have children, bills, I can't afford this luxury. I understand. And that's why I insist you can't afford to remain on autopilot. At 35 and beyond, each year you repeat yourself is more expensive than the last. The paradigm charges high interest in health, in joy, in lost opportunities. Behavioral studies show that a huge portion of our day is governed by automatic habits. It's not a lack of character, it's the mechanics of the mind. The solution isn't brute force, it's deliberate reprogramming. Here's a sequence of micro-interventions that begin to dislodge the old pattern, starting today. Environmental change. The subconscious responds to signals. If your desk screams chaos, it invites chaotic decisions. 5 minutes of organizing today are worth more than 5 hours of trying to will yourself tomorrow. Paradigm card. Write, in one sentence, who you decide to be financially now. I am a person who values my time and creates wealth with valued ideas. Carry it in your pocket. Read it in the morning and before bed, feeling it. Feeling is the lever that impresses the subconscious. The useful discomfort rule, choose one action per day that creates mild discomfort toward your goal. Making a proposal stating, my value is X, investing 1% more. Mild, repeated discomfort corrects the course without triggering panic. Question script. When fear arises, ask yourself in a low voice, is this a fact, or is my paradigm protecting me from the new? 9 times out of 10, it's the paradigm. Let me tell you something I'll never forget. Back in the fire department, a colleague said to me, man, you have a good job, hang on to it. Outwardly, I agreed. Inwardly, I knew that phrase was the same one I'd heard my whole life. Don't dare. The day I disobeyed that voice and started my first cleaning business, everything felt wrong. I had no training, no capital, no one's approval. I slept with fear for weeks. But each small counterintuitive decision created a risk that turned into muscle. In less than a year, the financial results surpassed anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't luck, it was changing the pilot. Carry this image with you. Your paradigm is like a deep rut in the earth, where water always flows. You don't fight the old rut. You start digging every day a new channel for the water to flow. At first, it's shallow and seems pointless. One day, without warning, the water changes course. From the outside, someone calls it a miracle. You know it was conscious repetition. So, I challenge you now. For 7 days, do the paradigm audit and practice the micro-interventions. Don't argue with the old habit. Observe, note, replace, and act. If the inner voice says, "This is silly," smile. It's the old guard trying to keep you at the gate. Keep going. You aren't broken. You're programmed. And programming can be rewritten. When you see this happening, it won't just be a new decision. It will be a new you deciding. When I say there's a hidden law, a frequency that governs what you attract, I'm not talking about a fancy buzzword. I'm describing a mechanism I've observed explaining itself countless times, the law of vibration. At its core, everything vibrates: the body, ideas, emotions. What enters your mind imprints itself as a rhythm in your being, and that rhythm commands your choices and, consequently, the results you obtain. I've talked about this many times in my seminars, that the paradigm controls the body's vibration and that thoughts in harmony with that paradigm cause predictable actions. Think about it. If you spend your life repeating phrases like "money is dangerous," "rich people are bad," or "this isn't for people like us," these phrases aren't empty words. They are electrical signals that bring the body to a frequency comfortable with scarcity. This creates an invisible magnet for circumstances that confirm the belief. This isn't mysticism to sell a course. It's simply how the brain, emotion, and behavior align. Modern psychology reveals that habits and automatisms are formed through repetition. Studies on habit formation demonstrate that automating a routine takes time and consistent repetition. The average time for a new routine to become automatic can be far longer than you imagine. The median found was around 66 days in the research on habit formation. Now, if you're saying, "Okay, I can try positive thinking, but I have bills and responsibilities, this isn't for me," that's precisely where science steps in to provide a roadmap. When the mind is consumed by financial worries, your cognitive capacity is reduced. What researchers call a bandwidth tax. Scarcity consumes attention, narrows reasoning, and favors immediate decisions that perpetuate the problem. This explains why good intentions often get lost amidst financial emergencies. It's not a lack of character, but a lack of mental bandwidth, because scarcity occupies the space needed for planning. And there's a practical bridge between vibration and reality: emotion. The science of emotions shows that positive states expand your ability to see options and build resources. The so-called broaden and build theory demonstrates that positive emotions expand thought-action repertoires and thus create psychological capital to act differently and choose better. In other words, when you cultivate constructive emotions systematically, you literally increase the range of options you can see. But make no mistake, positive thinking alone is neither a tragedy nor a miracle. It's a tool. Bandura demonstrated that belief in one's own efficacy, self-efficacy, is a powerful predictor of persistent behavior and performance. When someone believes they are capable, they take action, persist in the face of obstacles, and gradually gather evidence that solidifies this new identity. In other words, feeling capable changes not only what you think, but what you do, and what you do transforms your situation. Now, I want to be very direct. The law I teach doesn't promise that vague thinking will instantly transform your bank account. What happens, and I've seen it 1,000 times, is that thoughts consistent with what you want adjust your state, and that state generates behaviors that create results. There's also a cognitive bias that needs to be addressed. People evaluate gains and losses unequally. Prospect theory shows that we avoid losses more strongly than we seek gains, and this causes many people to prefer the apparent security of the present to a greater possibility in the future. Understanding this changes how you structure risks. Instead of risking everything, you learn to build bridges between the present and the future. I want to give you real-world examples that give shape to this idea. Oprah brings this concept to the mainstream when she talks about intention and focus as elements that guided her decisions and opened pathways to greater opportunities. She has interviewed many people who talk about the importance of inner clarity to attract possibilities. Jim Carrey, in interviews, recounted the exercise of writing a check to himself for $10 million and visualizing in detail what that would represent. The visualization generated such a vivid emotional state that it guided his choices and behaviors until a concrete situation coincided with it. It's not magical coincidence. It's how focus plus emotional state plus action create a field of attraction for compatible opportunities. On the other hand, there are bitter lessons for those who refuse to adjust their frequency. Giant companies have failed because their leaders didn't change their minds or their models when necessary. The inability to recognize a paradigm shift and adapt behavior led Blockbuster and Kodak to lose entire markets, not through moral punishment, but by remaining in the same strategic vibration while the world changed channels. These examples show that being right in your old belief can be costly. So how do you apply this today without falling into fantasies? First, clarity must be allied with emotion and action. Write down a specific goal, not "I want more money," but "I want X dollars in 12 months from source Y." And dedicate 5 minutes daily to visualizing the result with sensory detail, as if you had already achieved it. Then, identify a minimum viable action linked to that vision, a step you can take today, and repeat that action until it becomes a habit. Research on habit formation shows that consistency and context are crucial. Associate the new action with an existing trigger and repeat. In addition, address scarcity with operational strategies. Automate savings to reduce mental load. Create a small emergency fund to prevent unforeseen events from pulling you back into reactive mode. And set aside weekly creation time where you only think about possibilities. This relieves the bandwidth occupied by worry and allows you to think in terms of expansion instead of survival. These simple measures directly address what science shows about how scarcity shapes decisions. Finally, I propose a practical experiment. For 30 days, do 3 things combined. 1. Write and read your goal with emotion for 3 minutes every morning. 2. Perform a micro-action linked to the goal, a small, measurable step every day. 3. Record a small daily victory, however small, to feed your self-efficacy. These 3 practices work together synergistically: vision that aligns vibration, repeated action that forms the habit, and feedback that builds belief. If you do this responsibly, the likelihood of your choices beginning to produce different results increases dramatically, because you will be intentionally changing the frequency you emit to the world. And remember, scientists and observers show us that changing the mind changes attention and capacity, and that ultimately changes life. Now tell me, continuing as before because it's always been this way is comfortable, but it's this very comfort that guarantees you'll repeat the script. Or would you prefer to accept a little discomfort today to create possibilities that in a few months will seem inevitable? The forbidden habit is so subtle you barely notice it. Living on autopilot, repeating the same thoughts and the same actions day after day, expecting life to change. I've seen this thousands of times, and I say without mincing words, the problem isn't just what you do, it's how your mind has been programmed to react. A paradigm is, literally, a multitude of habits engraved in your subconscious, ideas you execute without thinking. And it's this set that controls the traffic of your daily life. If you want to destroy this forbidden habit, do it in scientific and practical steps, not empty promises. First, inspect the loop. Choose a behavior that sabotages you, impulses to spend, procrastinating on something worth money, avoiding conversations about finances, and record it for 7 days. What preceded this act? What was the thought, the feeling? What was the perceived reward? Relief, pleasure, avoiding confrontation. This audit exposes the trigger with precision, and then change becomes possible. Second, change the routine. Preserve the reward. Don't try to eliminate the reward. It's real. Replace the routine with one that delivers a similar reward. If the reward of impulse buying is stress relief, the new routine could be 5 minutes of breathing and writing down 3 practical solutions to stress. Same relief, different behavior. Research shows that habits don't disappear magically. The new routine needs to be practiced in the same context as the trigger until it gains strength. Third, use habit stacking to anchor the new action to something already automatic. Join the new routine to a routine you already do without thinking. For example, after brushing my teeth, existing routine, I write 1 question about my money, new routine. This technique dramatically increases the chances of persistence because you don't create a new trigger from scratch. You use one that's already stabilized. Fourth, transform vague intentions into precise plans. Formulate if-then statements. Instead of, I'm going to spend less, say, if I feel like impulse buying, then I'll wait 24 hours and write down 3 objective reasons to buy. If it still makes sense after 24 hours, I'll buy. Studies on implementation intentions show that plans in the if-then format increase the likelihood of executing the desired action because they make the trigger perceptible and automate the response. Fifth, respect the realistic time of change. Don't expect breaking an ingrained habit to happen in days. The average observed in research for a new routine to become automatic is around a few dozen days. Many people are surprised to discover that weeks of consistent practice are needed for the discomfort to lessen. It's not an excuse to procrastinate. It's a warning to persist methodically. And now, a practical application for those with bills, family, and fear. Choose one financial habit that repeatedly costs you. For example, ordering takeout every time you feel tired, or accepting jobs without charging the correct amount. Do this for 21 days. Clear protocol. Day 1, record trigger, routine, reward. Day 2, define the substitute routine and write the if-then plan. Days 3 through 21, practice the substitute routine, stacking it onto an existing routine and noting a small victory each day. The combination of clarity, what I should do, context, when and where, emotion, why this matters, and repetition is the machine that reprograms paradigms. Don't think this is just another self-help technique. Scientists explain how social practices, context, and repetition alter neural activity, shifting behavioral controls from conscious thought to automatic circuits, meaning your deliberate practice changes your body to act automatically. Let's tackle the objection I hear most. I can't take risks. I have a family, bills. It's not the right time for change. I understand. But clinging to the same mindset out of fear of change is, in the long run, the biggest risk, a slow erosion of opportunities and well-being. Small, methodical adjustments protect your security while creating space for growth. Your current paradigm prioritizes safety. Your conscious will, with the right tools, can create a new kind of security, one that pays the bills and lets you breathe easier. So here's a practical invitation. Choose a habit that drags you down, audit it for 7 days, implement a clear if-then plan, stack the new routine onto something you already do, and practice for at least 21 days. If you feel fear, that's a good sign. Fear is the bell of your paradigm ringing. Instead of obeying it, use it as a signal that you're on the right track. Change that daily routine, and you'll have begun to dismantle everything you believe to be immutable. Fear, that small word, holds the power to silence entire dreams. When I talk about fear, I'm not just referring to the monumental panic before a leap. I'm talking about the little voices whispering, "Later, not now, it's too risky." These voices have rhythm, tone, and address. They reside in the same part of your brain that ensured your survival when you were 7 years old. And at 35, 40, 50 years old, they've learned a whole repertoire of excuses to keep you safe, but trapped. Have you ever wondered how many doors you've closed because of a what if? How many proposals you haven't made? How many dreams you've shelved because a small, uncomfortable feeling spoke louder than your vision? Fear acts as the bodyguard of the paradigm. In my seminars, I show that this isn't just theory, it's daily practice. The paradigm pulls your body into the vibration of the familiar. That queasy feeling when you think about changing jobs, asking for more, charging your worth, or starting a business isn't a sign of incompetence. It's the paradigm's alarm screaming, "Danger, this doesn't belong to us." This automatic machine doesn't care about your deepest desires. It wants to preserve the known. What makes fear so treacherous is how it distorts the perception of risk. Our brains value avoiding losses far more than seeking gains. It's human nature. You avoid a conversation about a raise because the possibility of rejection seems greater than the joy of earning more. You postpone an investment because the potential for error sounds louder than the opportunity for freedom. And when bills tighten, the pressure narrows your reasoning. A mind consumed by emergencies diminishes your ability to plan strategically. It's not moral weakness. It's a biological mechanism that must be understood to be overcome. A method I use and teach is graduated exposure. Choose an action that generates fear, make it minuscule, and repeat. If asking for a raise paralyzes you, start by writing what you'd say for 3 days. On day 4, rehearse with a friend. On day 7, ask for a short conversation with your boss. Each small success reprograms the subconscious. Concrete experience conquers the assumed danger. Another tool is the failure budget. Allow yourself to err in a certain percentage of your attempts as part of the learning process. When failure ceases to be an absolute taboo, taking risks becomes an investment in data and growth. In the realm of emotions, we need to train the courage muscle, just as we train our physical bodies. Sensory visualization isn't fantasy, it's mental rehearsal that reduces anxiety and prepares actions. Combine visualization with an immediate micro-action, sensation plus movement. Learning, and record it. Celebrate small steps. Self-efficacy is born from repeated evidence that you can influence outcomes. I propose a practical experiment. For 14 days, perform a courage action daily, small, measurable, and uncomfortable. It could be calling a client, sending a proposal with a fair price, saying no to something that consumes your time, or having an honest conversation about money with your partner. After 14 days, review. Which fears were confirmed? Which evaporated? Which actions yielded tangible returns? This collection of personal data is the proof the paradigm demands to yield. Finally, accept this. Fear will always appear. The difference between those who succeed and those who stall isn't the absence of fear, but the art of transforming it into information and strength. At 35, time begins to exert pressure. Each year spent unchanged has a cost. Don't be hard on yourself. Be strategic, name it, plan it, expose yourself gradually, record it and repeat. If you do this honestly, what seems enormous today will become routine tomorrow. And when you least expect it, you'll look back and see that fear served only as a sign that you were crossing over to something greater. If there's one thing you need to take away from this, it's this. Nothing truly changes while you continue thinking and acting within the same pattern. What holds your life back isn't your circumstances, it's the paradigm you've accepted as normal. When you understand this and begin to change from the inside out, each choice will carry a different weight, and what seemed impossible will begin to move in your direction. Now don't stop here. The next video appearing on your screen is another step toward ascending your wisdom and becoming 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being with me. I'll see you in the next video.